What began as a simple home for a small family in the Ozarks grew into the site that would be the birth of tourism in the Branson area. Since the early 1900s, Old Matt's Cabin, the home of John and Anna Ross, has been of interest to people visiting the Ozarks from all over the world. You may ask yourself why this small insignificant structure is such an important place in the Ozarks. Well, history will reveal the answers. In the late 1800s, John and Anna Ross made a homestead of 160 acres of land just west of what is now Branson, Missouri. What seemed like just a purchase of a family home ended up being the first link in a chain that forever changed the face of this area. In 1896, a Kansas minister, Harold Bell Wright, came to the Ozarks on request from his doctor because the climate here would be good for his health. Wright, being a lover of fishing and nature, came here in search of a better lifestyle. He stayed temporarily on the Ross's homestead in a tent on the area that now is known as Inspiration Point. He spent the next several years getting to know the people and places of this unique and strangely romantic area. A lover of nature, he was constantly roaming the hills and streams of the Ozarks, capturing the setting and feeling of the land which he so vividly described in his book. In 1907, his novel was published for the first time under the title of The Shepherd of the Hills, and his perfect description of the Ozark scenery would draw thousands of visitors here to the Ozark Mountains. Many of the characters in this book are based on actual people that were from this area. Old Matt and Aunt Molly are based on John and Anna Ross, and their son Charles is actually the inspiration of the character Young Matt. One main character in this novel, Uncle Ike, was said by Wright himself that he was based on the postmaster of Notch, Missouri, Levi Morrill, who built his post office on the trail nobody knows how old. Old Matt's Cabin became a very popular tourist attraction, and the Rosses would have 50 or 60 people at a time following them around, so they finally moved across Roark Valley to Garber, Missouri. On Christmas Eve of 1910, they sold the homestead to M.R. Driver, who made it into a diner that would bring over 700 tourists to Old Matt's Cabin in just one season. The Rosses lived out their days running a store and post office in Garber, both passing away in 1923, and their son Charles, he married and moved to California, where he died at the age of 58 in 1934. In October of 1926, M.R. Driver sold the homestead to Horace DeWitt for $3 million, who 4 months later deeded it to his daughter, Lizzie McDaniel King. In 1927, Miss McDaniel began to stage plays reenacting The Shepherd of the Hills on the lawn of the Ross's cabin. Miss McDaniel granted a right-of-way to the state of Missouri for the purpose of building through the homestead, which what is known today as Highway 76. January 10, 1936, she executed a 50-year lease to the state for 6.86 acres in the homestead to develop and beautify a scenic turnout on Inspiration Hill. From the time Lizzie passed away in 1946 to the first production of the show, the homestead was in the hands of many people and organizations including H.B. McDaniel, Branson Civic League, Dr. Bruce and Mary Trimble, and Mark Trimble. On August 6, 1960, Mark Trimble, working with Jim Cawley as scriptwriter and director, and Lloyd Heller as casting director, formed the Old Mill Players Incorporated and produced the first performance of the Shepherd of the Hills outdoor drama in the newly built outdoor amphitheater on the Ross's homestead. The amphitheater had a capacity of 275 seats on opening day, and just 6 years later it could seat 2,800 spectators. Mark had said that he wasn't wanting to hire actors. He wanted locals to play the roles of these characters, one of which being our very own Ozark study teachers today, Tammy Morton, who played Aunt Molly in the production for over 5 years. Also, the director, Keith Thurman, has been with The Shepherd of the Hills for over 40 years now. He held the leading role of young Matt for several years before becoming the director in 1981. In 1965, a young man had moved to Branson with his wife to become the head football coach at Branson High School. He was cast in the production to take the role of Wash Gibbs. No one had imagined that less than 20 years later, Gary and Pat Snadden would purchase the Shepherd of the Hills historical homestead and Old Mill Theater from Mark and Lee Trimble. After purchasing the homestead on November 1, 1985, Gary and Pat knew that the 50-year lease of Inspiration Point would expire in less than 75 days. So they began to focus on making the most of the property by doing things like having nightly plays. While they were on a trip to New York, the Snaddons were standing on the observation deck of the World Trade Center when Gary had said that an attraction like that was needed here in Branson. And in 1989, the 230-foot-tall Inspiration Tower was built on the site where Harold Bell Wright had spent his summers looking out over Mutton Hollow. The Snaddons were made aware of a small frame church that was built in 1901 in Morgan, Missouri, whose congregation had broke up and left the building and everything inside of it perfectly intact. The church looked a lot like a church that Wright would have ministered to in his life. So, in 1990, the Morgan County Church was moved to Inspiration Point. On July 6th through the 8th, 2007, a centennial celebration was held to honor the 100th anniversary of the publication of The Shepherd of the Hills. It didn't take 1, 2, or even 3 people to make the Shepherd of the Hills homestead and outdoor theater what it is today. It took many people to step up and try to bring out the true historic meaning behind Old Matt's cabin and to show others what a day in the life of an Ozarks pioneer is really like. The site where the original homestead had been is now marked only by a tall chimney featuring a double-facing fireplace. It is the only remaining piece of the homestead. What began as a simple home for a small family in the Ozarks grew to be a major tourist attraction, a historical site, and most importantly, a legend.